Coming to the case of nose test. Nose test is another way of testing the things, similar to what we have done till now. Say I'm going with an example of like the same thing, calculator. Within that, I want to create a small file called as mymath.py. So within that, I want to add two functions and I want to do the testing. So if I have like direct functions, I'm checking like if you are given two numbers, I'm checking whether types are equal to this thing and similarly type of so and so. So either of them should be, correct. Number should be either a float or a type should be like a float. Means a type can be either integer or a float. That's what it means. And here I wrote a logic. So I wrote something like this, right? Now for this, I need to write the testing. How can I do? So you can understand here that I have written two functions. This is the actual logic which is being happening. But this is not the actual logic, right? So it is combined of assertion. I told you, in real code, we don't use the assertions. So these assertions we should write separately. So that is the point of going for some framework or a module. So till now we have seen that in the unit test. Similarly, we can see in the pytest. Sorry, nose test right now. If you see nose test, same like what you did there. Here also we need to do the same way. Let's say in this case we have seen what? We have addition, right? Addition means you are adding two values, you get the result. So now I need to test this addition. How do I test addition? Whether it is working perfectly or not. So we need to pass like integers. If I pass like integers, I should get the integers. Pass float, I get float like that. So from my math means this is a script. From that I want to import this add, right? Import add. After importing, I need to make use of it. Say first I wrote like a small test that I want to do addition of test add integers. If I pass two values, I'm getting the result. You see, in a unit test framework, so
I
we have
didn't see anything. I'm watching from the mobile because my internet connection is no good. So I'm not.
you can see that I have created a function. So similarly, I want to do the addition, subtraction, multiplication, whatever functions I have. I have like few other additions also for the same function. Positive, next cases. If you see, till now we have worked on unit test. If you take any example of a unit test, you can notice that in the test setup, you have a big class you need to write, import, you do a setup, functions, and all these things individually, right? But the point is you need to write a class and do all the things separately. Whereas in nose test and next pytest also, they made this very easy. You need not write anything else, but every test case you should start with a test underscore. And also the programs, so means the files where the tests are there, you should start them with a test underscore. And if you have folder also, start with a test underscore. Of course, you can have ending also test also. It's up to you. But like both nose test and pytest, even so unit test, everyone refers the same. So every time prepend with a test underscore. If you prepare with a test underscore, it will understand that it is a test. Then how do you run this test, sir? Means for that we need to install nose. So pip install nose test. It is one of the kinds of testings that we have. If we, after installing, it is saying like I don't find a nose. So pip search nose. If any module when you're having, it is saying I don't know.
We have to write U nose test.
Yeah. First of all, if we install so and so only, we should do the command in the same way. But the point is, we need to have the nose test installed. Oh, sorry, my bad. It's a typo. Nose test. nose test. Okay, nose test. Did I do that correctly? Oh, it was now changed to nose. Pip install nose. If I do like pip install nose, you want like hyphen user if you do. Yeah, user. If I say it will go install for the current user. After that, when I'm doing, so I should do it as you mentioned like that. So whenever you are installing, there are two types of things we install, like a module, like a tool. If you see coverage.py, so all these things, how do you do coverage.py hyphen m, like you do unit test or whatever you do, right? So coverage, unit test, these are all tools. Even nose is also a tool. If I say like nose test, okay, I need to navigate to this directory. Oh, I'm going out. C so and so. Nose test. Yeah, nose. They change the syntax. I seldom use nose. Most of the time I use either this one or that. It is saying what? So the best way I do is like in command line, instead of that, I go in this way. In the terminal, I write like import nose. So and nose dot run. So till now you do unit test dot main, right? Unit test import and you do it. So similarly, we can do like this. So if I say nose comma file so and so, like that also we can run, or in this way also we can do. What is saying it is an error. No, what do you mean? So pytest error. So it is an issue something with the nose test module. I think the code was broken something. So I thought of explaining to you, but like this module is very less used. So that's the reason like I think we are seeing the failures. It is saying I think it was callable is failed. Somewhere the code was broken. Okay, leave about it. So that's why I don't deal more about this unit nose test. So we'll go next with the pytest. That's a big thing. Trust me, what are the problems that you have seen till now? All the problems will be solved if you come to the pytest. So the point of pytest is very simple. If I go over like small examples, till now, let's say I am going with the example. So I want to write a main file and I want to do a test. So or like I want to do all of them together also. Let me take a very simple example. Hope you remember we worked on asserts in the starting, right? Asserts, I told everything that you write assert statement, that's it. If there's an issue, it will handle. Instead of you doing a try except every time, a unit testing framework can better do it. So one such is the unit test, next is the node test, the third one is a pytest. If I can start with this example, so the first win, if I take is a small example, say test sample. I want to be part of this function, this thing, and here I want to write something. As you know, asserts and the story of asserts, how these things works. Right? Assert statement. You're taking anything, just writing an assert. You're taking everything, writing an assert. If there is an issue, you're handling like this. So this is how you are doing till now. But like if I can do the other way, I can do say The traditional example, say, if I go with this calculator, the same calculator example I want to do instead of this. So in the calculator example, say I have a small calculator, arithmetic operation I want to do. Okay, so I have this as a calculator. It has a class variable called as pi, and addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. There were like 4 operations. Now I want to do the testing. So for testing, so either we can write the test in the same function or like in a separate function. So how we have done till now using unit test, we have written like, so okay, you remember when I writing like a test underscore calculator dot py. I want to take an example of a existing test case of how things are there. Now I just want to replicate it here. So if you take a simple example of a unit test, what you will have, you want to test what functionalities. If I say this function, it has like calculator, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So traditionally using unit test, what we'll have? We'll have a unit test. It has a setup if needed. So tear down is the last thing. And for each of the test case, setup and tear will happen. And you have a test cases. This is how the scenario is. So you need to write this kind of bulk structure. So similarly, if I want to do the same thing with a pytest, so I don't do all these things. Instead of that, what I'll do is like, okay, I want to test something, right? Write the same thing. So whatever you have, say, I want to do like define test addition. I want to test addition, right? I can do test addition directly. Test addition. First of all, we need to import from calculator, import. What are the things you have? You have arithmetic operations. So you can say arithmetic operations. So in arithmetic operations means we need to have an instance, right? For that instance only we do. That is how you do. How you write traditional logic. So arithmetic operations is equal to, you create an arithmetic operations, and for that you pass the values, right? If I say like, AO dot addition of, so 2 comma 3 you give, and you see the output. So this is how you do, right? Operations. Similarly, you do the other operations also like this: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Multiplication and division. And we place a F. So if I do right now, so you will get all the operations together in one place at the same time like this. In the same fashion, when your usage also, it should be like that only. So you take the same example, you know how you are importing, and now instead of just printing, you evaluate. So instead of, so the evaluations you can done here. Say assert is equal to what you're expecting it to be 5. Similarly, so I don't pass anything else. I just started it with a unit test. That's it. And if I say like, test edition, maybe like test edition 2, I want to do. So I will say like, 2 comma minus 3 if I give, I should get a minus 1. Similarly, in the same fashion, you within the same thing only you can do multiple things. Say like if I say negative, if I say minus here and plus here, I got like, so it would be a plus 1. And in the same fashion, if I have both as negative, I'll get like minus 5. So like that, I have 2 test cases. In the same fashion, anything you write, in the same so now if I want to execute, how do I execute these functions? So there are 2 ways in which you need to execute. First of all, whenever you're writing any test script, so one thing we should be aware is that it should follow a particular way. As I told earlier also, here also the same thing. Any example when you're writing, either it should start with a test or end with a test. So you can follow any of the conventions. PyTest will automatically recognize it. So what is the advantage of going for PyTest means you need not make a complex or big syntax. It will auto discover the things. So right now I was in the somewhere PyTest. Okay. So if I see the file structure, I have one example. So this is where I am. Okay. I can make it like, calculator. Okay. Example is there. I have this one. Now if I say py.test, first of all, pytest also will not come by default. We need to install pip install pytest. If I say here, if I install, it will install. Now in terms of the usage, how it works is like, so we need to give everything together. PyTest, what is saying? Yeah, you don't have permission, it is saying. It's simple. So whenever you're doing individually, you should do. In a virtual environment, you need not give the -n user. I will tell you what is a virtual environment afterwards. So I installed. Now how to use it? Can I do like python -m pytest? So let's see. So python -m pytest. So what are the file is there? I need to execute it. I need to directory python -m pytest. So this script, whatever you have. Where am I? Why every time it will go? I don't know. Okay. So this is where my files are there. Python -m pytest test calculator. If I execute, you can see it is passed. Did you see that I didn't write any complex use cases and others? Very simple. However, I'm printing, right? So this is not my intention. So I don't want to print it. My intention is just to execute it. And of course, I will tell you a very interesting thing also. Whenever you're using a PyTest, you won't get the prints. So that is the main purpose, because too much, no one is interested at seeing the outputs. So that is a way you can get the things output also, but that's not the main thing. And to see, it gave a standard thing, which platform is executed, what versions, what is a PyTest version. So like that, everything it is giving. So how many it is saying? I passed 2 test cases. Similarly, I want to do the this also. If I say define subtraction, I have like subtraction underscore test. Assume that I'm writing something like this. Let's see how it works. AO dot, sorry, instead of addition, I want to do subtraction of, so 2 comma 3. So then what will happen? 2 minus 3, right? 2 minus 3 means what? You will get -1. This is what you're supposed to get. And if I execute right now, did you see what happened? It is saying that you passed only 2 tests, because it is not starting with a thing. It is not getting considered as a test. And if I do now, instead of like this, if I say test underscore file name can be like starting or ending with a test, but the unit test should every time start with a test. And if you want like more verbose, -v you can give. If I say -v, so after that it will come like this. So python -m pytest so and so. Sir, can I do the same thing in another ways without even to having this one? Can I execute it? It says I don't know what is this. So if rather, so they created one more thing. With python -m you can do like that, or py.test. So it is an executable, it should come. Now it's not coming pytest. So sometimes like Windows don't recognize that easily, but there is a way. Py.test also will work. But here I'm showing you. Yeah. So what it is saying, verbose means very clearly it is saying, hey, I executed 3 tests. It is part of this file. In the test underscore calculator, there is a test like this. I executed. In the test so and so, I executed like this. So if you want to specifically execute a one test case, that also you can execute. Python -m pytest. So in the pytest, I want to execute which one I can give like this. If there are multiple files, I want to execute only one file like this. Or if you want to discover everything, don't write the file name. Or within the file name also, I want to execute one test. I can write like this. You see now, I'm writing in this way. If I do, you see now, only the second test is executed. If I say -uv, you will understand. See, only the addition to test was executed and it passed. So like that, you can specifically ask one test to execute and you can see the result. And similarly, if I go with like, I don't need any others, right? Fine, leave it. Maybe like for this, I want to do in a separate file. So I can go again instead of this much. I want to write in another file. Say like calculator underscore test.py. See, file name, it is ending with it, right? Now here also I want to import from calculator. So import arithmetic operations. So you have the functionality, right? So say I write this time AO1 is equal to arithmetic operations. Similarly, like the others, you want to do implement here. I told test cases should be every time starting with a test, right? Test underscore. So test underscore I wrote. Say like after subtraction we did there, we have multiplication. I want to do multiplication, test multiplication. Say assert. So AO1 dot multiplication of 2 comma 3 is equal to 6. And so I want to repeat the same thing. So maybe like negative test. I just need to say like that. The test comma like 6 is not equal to 16 I wrote. This is also one kind of test. Now we see if in this understand. In this folder, there is one your main file. There are two test folders. And also see whenever you're writing tests, a new folder will be created like .pytest. Don't think it's a something virus or something. And these are dot files. So they will disappear, hidden files. And also the pycache files, they will come. So don't worry, wherever you're working, these will come. And you see now, if I execute, in this directory, there are like these three files, right? Now, if I say python -m pytest, just pytest again, it will automatically discover the things. Did I tell that to execute something? I didn't tell. Where it has gone? Did it execute the calculator.py file? No. Anything which is starting with a test or ending with a test. So both were executed. In middle, if you have test, that is different. Either starting or ending. And if you want more clearly to say -v, if I give verbose. Now you see, it is showing all the things. Hey, in the calculator test, executed all, then test underscore so and so. And also these files are executing in the alphabetical order. So in the alphabetical, C comes first, then T comes. That's the reason test underscore calculator executed first, then so and so. So people, over a period of time, they gone with the new conventions. They thought like, instead of writing with a test underscore so and so, if you do like underscore test in the last, then you can better relate, right? In the sequence, as a developer, you can better relate. So the calculator test, both will come in one place. If I have like some 10 files, for the 10 files, you have 10 separate tests. So don't you think it's easy? That's the reason new language like Go language and others, they recommend that, hey, you end with test file should end with a test. So whereas in the code, we should start with a test underscore. That's what they say. And similarly, let me take two more examples for you to understand and go ahead. Hope you remember till now we did a test underscore, right? Say test, say like 0, 1. You remember I told that earlier in the convention. In the test cases, how to execute the order if you want to dictate, say division of like this, and I want to do assert AO1 dot division of 2 comma 3 is equal to 2 by 3, I don't know, so maybe making simple, so 4 by 2 I'll make is equal to 2. So I want to see this now. If I execute again, you can notice that it is executing, collecting and executing. Did you see test 01 underscore also working? It should just start with a test. And which one executed first in the case? Did you detect it to execute? So first calculator underscore test was executing, that we know. In that you have given like this. So which one is executing first and which one is executing next? So I did like test 01. So the order. So order is as assigned. Unlike in unit test, where lexicographical order is followed. So don't you think now I need not write like test 01, 02, I need 030, nothing, right? Whatever the sequence I write, it will execute in that order. So no matter if I say like define, say test underscore division 2. So another division I want to do, assert AO1 dot say division of 4 comma 0. Is it equal to 0 or 0 comma 0? Let's see, 0 comma 4 if I give, it will be 0, right? I have a test. So no matter where, if I place this one in the top, okay. Now if you execute, did you see the order? Which one executed first? Even if you say test 0, test Z, if you even say like test Z I wrote, okay, test Z I wrote. If I execute, what happened? First one executed, right? So that is what I mean to say. So about the ordering of the tests. Next. So like this, hope you understood about the scenarios. So going further, okay, one more thing I forgot. When you're working with this test, you will get one more thing, right? Test 0, 0, right? But like, division of by 0. What will I get if I do division by 0?
0.
Will it be 0? Divide by 0. If I divide by 0, what will happen?
Oh, 0 division by yeah.
0 division error, right? You will
Yeah.
get an exception. So what is saying? Totally 7 passed, 1 failed. So don't you think syntax became very easy, right? Instead of a big test, big syntax, things
Yes.
became easy. But here also exception came. Then how to handle the exceptions here? Simple. We need to use the pytest. So with pytest. So till now we didn't use pytest, right? Import. See, that's a beauty. Till now we didn't even import it. So if I use like pytest, so import hope you can hear.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So with pytest dot raises of, what is the exception I can get? 0 division error as ex if you want the exception, and if you don't want the exception, fine, leave it. So if you just do like, you can do like this. If I execute right now, it expects that it should get a 0 division error. The only test is that it expects that it should be a 0 division error. You don't even write an assert. Okay, point is very simple. The function, when it executing, it should get a exception. And if you want to capture the result, I can do. So instead of that, what if I write 2 tests with the same name? What if I write 2 tests with the same name? Which one will execute? The latest one will execute, right? Yeah, that is a general function overloading. So function overwriting. So if I do like, I just want to handle the zero division error specifically. That's why I do it like this. So overwriting happens. So don't you think in the entire program you'll understand I didn't focus on the structure. You're focusing more on your code. I want to check the result. Say like, and I want to check in the result. So that there will be zero division error, right? So I can write assert divide division by zero, right? Something by zero will be there in str of so dot value. So like that I can do an assert. If it is correct, it will say. If not, it will so and so. Zero division by zero is there, right? That's the point. I'm doing a testing. So the entire exception also I can take purely zero division error, and after doing also I can handle. This is how it will work. Next, so there are this is what traditionally this is one way of executing the things. And similarly, if you want to execute one specific script, so you can also do like pytest.main. If I execute in this way, python calculator.test. If you want to execute a specific file, you do like this. You see, if I execute like this, did you see what happened? Your main function is executing, right? Hope you understood what I'm trying to say. When I did like this, the main function is executing. You see, in the main function, I should write like a underscore underscore name underscore underscore, right? So that is the reason we write this condition. Whenever you are using any of the source code and you're testing, your logic should not execute. So that's the reason I wrote. Now coming back to our example, what I wrote, as I wrote like pytest.main in this program, only this script can be executed. If I execute now, you see, source is not executing, only this one. And if I want to be more specific, -v, did you see what happened when I did pytest? So don't you think that it is discovering others also? So I want to tell very interesting thing here, that you have three functions. So three scripts, your main code and two test scripts. And you have taken one of the test script called as calculator test. And you did a pytest.main. There are two ways of executing any test script, right? Either you go explicitly go and execute that Python calculator test I am executing. As I wrote pytest.main, it will execute, right? Similarly, I can auto discover entire things. But if I execute like this, did you observe what happened? Though you have given like this, it will auto discover all the test cases in this and execute it. In this script, you have these many. See now, you have only calculator.test. How many tests are there? pytz or whatever might be. But apart from your code, there is another script. In those test addition, subtraction, multiplication. So addition and subtraction are not there here, but still they were executed because you have like this. And how much percentage of execution was done, that is also same. So in one shot, everything you have, right? That's the reason people are very much interested in this pytest. So now going for the typical use cases. Let's say if I go for one more example. So I want to traditionally test something else. I am writing like more test cases. Say one more example, say b underscore example.py. I want to limit by having one more things. Say I am going with sys.exit. Hope you know the difference between sys.exit and break, right? Sys.exit I told. Any program, as it told you, you can execute in multiple ways. So one such way I told, right? So if you have any file, so the file can be executed directly or like quite also. quietly, there are two ways of executing any program. Quietly executing means like when you're executing, you pass like a hyphen q, means it will execute but it will be calm. Means like what is that calmness? Let's see. And here in this case you observe there is one function which is raising a system exit error. And see, as I told in the previous case, I handled this in the same fashion. So there is a recursion depth function, means I told one context that, hey, the below code when you execute, you will get this error. And within the function, I am making a call to the same function. You see, this is a recursive function call, right? So I wrote like this function. Now I want to execute. Say, if I navigate back, so Python -m pytest, yes, so and so. What is saying? It will execute two test cases now in this case. So these two test cases were executed. -v verbose. Both the test cases were passed. Did you all understand how we are handling exceptions? Or like I want to handle zero division error. Test division 0. What we did earlier, the same thing I'm doing with pytest dot raises of zero division error as ex. I told, right? So you do like 1/0. You get the things. So or like you want to handle the error also I told. If I do like this now, 3 tests will execute. Next, further, based upon this, if I go, one more example to take care is, yeah. So there were like more such kind of exception tests, if I can focus on. For the exception, see here in this folder, the moment you executed, two files are created, __ pytest and this one. And see here, if I execute another file like exception messages. Did you see now, from now, everyone is following like this syntax. We are not starting with test. We are ending with test. So due to that, like one advantage is we can more clearly read what is happening and we can decide based upon that. And let me give one more example. You see in this case, as I told in the previous case, handling zero division error, that's one thing. And same like if you have a function. So if you have a function and if you want to check for something, if you want to check if result is containing zero division error or something, that also you can check, right? That's what I told. Say Python -m pytest. Even if I give one file also, it will execute all of things in this folder. But if I want to execute only for one of the files, I can say like p exception so and so, then it will execute only for this file. So that's why, so unit test and pytest every time you should do in command line. Then we will have a lot of control. So if I give like -verbose, you can see that. And in this case, I earlier told one thing for that. Hey, when you're doing a zero division error, I told that, so division by 0 in, so result I told, right? So like this we can do, fails if there is a zero division errors. And the same fashion I told like 1 if I take, I will handle this exception in by taking a message as ex str of ex dot value. So both the things I can do, right? Two things are there. And in the same fashion, if let's say I have a function which is resulting this thing, and if I want to do the regular expression match, so there is some concept, next I will tell you about regular expressions. Here also we can test it. You see in this example, I have a function called as my function. When you're executing, it is throwing a value error. And you are saying exception is occurring. Instead of just checking for value error, I want value error also. At the same time, content should contain 123. It is dot star means like anything. So we will tell you understand afterwards. So but like now you need to understand is this one. Dot star means anything. Similarly at the ending also. So in anything. If I execute right now, you see, as it is having an exception 1, 2, 3, you are handling it. So not only just doing things, so but based upon this also you can do. At the same time, if you want to raise an exception, say there is one more example to check. You see in this example, you are doing a value error check and you are just raising a value error and match, you must match exactly. So match in the match, if you do like regular expression, so check, it will do like this kind of pattern matching. And if you want to check for like any value, you see now, I want to match must be 42. I wrote value must be 42 and value must be there, but number can be either thing. When I go to regular expressions, I will explain you more clearly. What is a regular expression? What is a pattern and others? So then you will understand. Based upon that, we can do that kind of pattern matchings also. So exception handling we are doing, the result we are getting, and I'm checking like, hey, assert should raise this one, and assert dot type should be like thing. So what values I told till now. In the values, if you want arguments also, I can get like this. So like that, you can handle more exception types. In the same fashion, say this time I'm writing everything together so that you already understood the context, right? So if I want to do a class test, say like till now I didn't write a grouping the tests. I wrote tests all separately, right? Now if I want to group the tests, so now I'll do what? I have a small function called as addition, and I want to do the test. Till now I did like addition or so and so, but you, if you want, you can group them also together. How can a group means like you write a one, so individually test. Till now you write what? Test underscore addition. You write like assert addition of 2 comma 3 should be 3. Similarly test define test 1 addition or like test 2 addition or something. So test addition 2, I wrote assert addition of say 10 comma 20, I should get like 30. Or like define, so my test, if I say my test underscore addition assert addition of -1 comma -2 equal to -3. Now if I assume that I wrote a small program like this, then what will happen? Python -m pytest, so c so and so. You see how many tests were executing here? Only 2 tests were executing. The reason being it is not having it because it will be skipped. But you wrote a 3 tests, right? In the same fashion, if you want to combine them together, so I write like my class test edition. I write a class like test edition, and within that I want to do. So just pass on them together. And of course, if it is a class, we need to have self. Whether you use or not, it doesn't matter, but you should have. Whether you use or not, you should have self. Now you see, I have written like this. Now, if I say here, even the class name, so the class name also should start with a test, capital T, and methods also should be start with so and so. So what is the advantage, sir? Means it's up to you. For better visibility and others, you can group them together. So, and did you see that in when you executed, 4 were executed? Means first 2 were executed because they are starting like this, and it is starting with my, that's why I didn't execute, skip. In the same fashion, here also the same logic. But what is the advantage, sir? Means we can have some kind of context together, which can help us. grouping as, say like I can do like one more test. So what is the advantage of class means we can share the variables outside also, without classing also we can do, but it would be really helpful. Say same test edition, I'm doing two. So first I wrote like a constructor. You know how it works, right? So like a constructor and all these things we can do. Rather than I doing, I'll give an assignment, you know. So in constructor, so create result, so addition, so write test cases, one for like, so one for value, one for type checks, means the result is an integer. So one like that, you write the test and see how it is working. So that is what is a lesson assignment. So like this, if you want to group anything, it would be really helpful for you when you're doing. And similarly, not only this, if you want to do the warnings, that is also a possibility here. If I do here warnings, so coming to the case of warnings, if I say, if I have one function, till now every function whatever I wrote, I am doing only the errors or raising an exception or so and so. For the first time, I'm using some module called as warnings. In fact, this is part of the built-ins only. Have you ever seen any function when you're using, they say this is deprecated, it is not will be there afterwards, right? So more than like a print, warning will help you like in warning. Say if I do traditionally, I make a call to this function, what will happen? So there is nothing like unit test or something, pytest. So d warnings. If I execute this function, it will return a 200. At the same time, it is giving a warning that, warning means what? You will get the entire Python program, so entire script, and it which line also it will say, line 7. Deprecation, you should not use it. That is how the warning is. Now for this, if I want to do the test, so deprecation, I want to check for the deprecations. I do like this. Now you see here. So if I execute again, nothing is happening, because like directly if you execute, this pytest will not execute. You know, right? Python -m. So pytest, and if you want to execute only this one -d. You see now, no tests were ran. So pytest warning. So we are saying like with deprecated, it should be there. And in the same fashion, like this, we can have multiple things. -m, pytest -v. If I say, it is executing. Oh, so somewhere in the D test, line 23, where it is saying line 23 means this one. It is saying there is a problem. What is saying? In the user warning, you gave like a user warning, should be there. So match or match be like this. And here you are saying like, it should be a percentile D. You are saying there is no there. Did you understand what I'm trying to say? This warning you handle. Similarly, if you are writing your own warnings, so must be percentile/D. So here it is value must be 44, but here it is not like that. So it was like failing. So, and here it should be like something else. There is something, right? So if I write exactly like this, it will work. Whatever I wrote here, I write it. Now in this case also it will work. So like that, you wrote your own test cases to execute. And the next thing, that's the most important thing, is about the fixtures. So till now you execute the things, but what is this concept of fixtures, how they can help us? To understand more about these test cases, I will help you understand these things that. Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So one last example before going is on the C example, so and so. If I take this C example, first thing, so we have worked on different kinds of tests. So I just want to tell you all in one more example. That's it. Now it's easy for me. Every time when I'm writing a test case, I need not write separately, and I can make the things easy. If I say 0_example test something, it's easy, right, for me, or like a_example. So whenever I'm writing, I will focus on my name instead of the test. So as test is at the end, it will take care of it. Now fine, created a new folder and I want to do. So what I want to do is like, I created a addition function and I want to test it. Simple, right? You wrote your logic, you want to do the test. And similarly, if I want to write like more test cases, so as these are small things, I can write in separate files and test also, or in one place also I can do. And addition 2, I want to do what? Addition 2, instead of doing an assert statement, I want to do plus direct operations. For you to better understand in one place. Rather, I can do the same operation separately also, but doing it. See example. Yeah. Python -m CLS and Python -m pytest -v. You see, earlier I wrote many things, but in the current folder, I have only one test case. That's why only that is executing. What is the answer it is saying? It is saying it is failed. So only the current directory only it will execute. What is saying in add 2 it failed. What is the reason? 2 plus 3 if I would, how can you get? It should be like plus 4, right? Yeah. If I do 2 plus 4, now it's working. Someone asked you why we need to write unit tests. Sometimes we'll write typos like this. So these can be helpful for us in understanding. And also like if I do something like a test square, I want to do. So 2 equal to something I give, and I'm checking whether squares are equal or not. And similarly cubes. So what not? Test cases I wrote. Say here, see here. I want to check the cubes. So I want to check the things. If I say Python dot upper means I should get it. Python dot lower means so loud noises like this. And similarly, if I want to do some operation, if I want to do any operation also, I can do like this, right? List of reverse of so and so. Hope you know what is a reversed, right? I told you. If you want the given values in a reverse order, not in a descending order, reverse order, we have reverse function. So if you want to test that, you can do it. And similarly, if you want to do the sorting, so reverse sorting or sorting, you can do sort reversed. Sort reverse if you want to test means what? So if you are given some numbers, so you will get this order in a different way. To make you to understand both of them, I can tell like this. Say, if I have 2, 3, so 1, 4. So what will I get in reverse order means? So that's a built-in functionality. So 4, 1, 3, 2. That is what happens. Whereas if I do this reversed, sorted off, so the same thing. 2, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 4. 2, 3, 1, 4 I wrote. If I do the sorting, so in a reverse order, reverse equal to true, if I say, then I will get these values in a reverse order. Reverse means, descending order. So 4, 3, 2, 1. This is what the difference between these two. See, so beautifully I wrote it. So if I say like, sorting ascending, I need not do anything. So code is very easy. Sort ascending. So sort ascending means I will make like, reverse equal to false. Reverse equal to false means it should be a sorting by default 1, 2, 3, 4. If I execute now, it will execute now. So it is giving the entire result. Next, going further, if I go, so yeah, in the same fashion, I have written one more big example. So I'm trying to give you more examples so that you can better understand. And also, as I told you, if you want to group them also, we can group multiple test cases. I just showed you, right, earlier also. How do you group? So like this, you did it. In the same fashion, if I execute right now, entire things will execute. and help you. So one more example to share is like, email address validation. This is one of the common things you'll get. So email validation. If I just do validation, it doesn't work. Underscore test it should write. Either start with a test or end with a test. That's easy. Now, if I have a logic to do that, so I have written some logic to do that. Email address verification. So is something a valid email or not? That I want to check. I wrote a logic for that, and I want to evaluate the same. So how do I evaluate? Generally, if I want to execute, so I write the program directly. So I want to check what is the result so and so. This is how I write, right? So for this, if I want to write a test, so let's do that separately. Okay. So let it make it like this, validation. And for this, with the same name, I want to create. So now, don't you think it's easy for us to, replicate any functionalities also? So in the test, I need not implement anything. I can just import it. So B email validation, import so and so. Now, instead of doing all the things, I can just evaluate and check these conditions. So I have written my main logic in separate function. If I want to directly execute, I will write like this. Name underscore underscore is equal to underscore underscore main underscore underscore. I do like this. Okay. If I directly execute that Python script, so B so and so, it will execute true or falses. Whereas if I say this one, execute the virtual test, it is executing all the test cases in all the examples. So now you see here, if I want to execute only mine, I can say -v, which one? B validation test. If I execute, only that test related things were executed. In this, there were 3 test cases, valid so and so, invalid like that. So that is how it is working. Okay, over a period of time, what happens is like you will have like more and more test cases, hundreds of test cases you will write. Then when you're writing too many test cases, it would be difficult for you at one point, like how do the things works. So to handle them, we need to have something called as markings. Means for the tests also, we can write some kind of marking. So there is something called as pytest mark. So pytest marking means, let's say one example. So I'll make it simple. Example.py. So whenever you're writing the test, for the tests also you can write a mark. When you do a mark, so something like this. So I wrote some tests. For that, I'm saying like mark.grade. Mark.grade means I want to check whether some numbers are greater or lesser or like that. For that, I wrote like this. So did you see that I am checking greater than or equal to? So for others, I'm saying others. Say like similarly, I have 2 things, lesser or equal to, like that I wrote. So mark doesn't mean that something should be there like this. Say like anything you write, any word with a properly. If I write like less, I want to check like lesser. Lesser means number is lesser than so and so. Number is less than or equal to, right? Lesser than or equal to. So here you can have any name, but there only. And here also, it doesn't mean that you should do right like this. Maybe say I'm writing Uday. So I want to check is equal to, so not equal to, I'm doing Uday. And if I say like, so same thing, for more than test, say, I will tell, 200 is equal to 200. So if there are like many tests, if you want to execute, not every test, but a group of tests. So till now I told, right? If I say Python -m, pytest -v, in this directory, current directory, what are all test scripts are there, it will go to everyone and execute. If I see in this problem, so you didn't write like underscore test. It has gone and understood, right? What are the test cases are there and executed. So that's a beauty. And here, how many tests were executed? You wrote like greater, lesser, addition to, whatnot. I think you are in a different directory. Sorry. Yeah. Now you see here, in the current directory, if you execute, nothing was executed. The reason being, either this file is not starting with a test or ending with a test. If I have a file, so with ending with a test or starting, then it will start executing. So it will recognize all the files, all the test cases and execute it. So, okay, two of them are failing. So which is one? Greater is failing. Test greater. Where is the test greater? First one. It is saying like number is not greater. So number should be greater than 1 means 1 not 1. If I say, it will execute. So one more is failing, like 100 is less than. So then like, so where it is test lesser, it is failing. So if I say 99, now it will execute. Yeah, fine. Now you see these many test cases were passed, so were executed, right? But did you see for everything there is a marking that, so unknown test mark. So what it is saying? Is there a typo that you are doing? Because there is a deprecation warning. What is the deprecation warning it is saying? It is saying that, hey, you executed this one, but you are getting this warning. What it is saying? So unknown pytest markup dot uday, is it a typo? You have registered so and so. If you want to mark, so maybe these days syntax was changed. So what is saying? Hey, you wrote like greater, lesser, or so and so. If I check the latest examples in the documentation, pytest mark. There is one example we should take. It is saying that there is a warning, which I'll check back afterwards. But so generally, what is the purpose of it? I will tell now. So totally 5 tests are there, warnings are there. It's not a mistake, but it's just a warning. Means every time the format changes, they will tell. Now, what is the purpose of it means? Instead of testing all of them, you can test with a particular markup. So I want to test only the lesser values or something. Yeah, still it is there. It's confusion. Okay, this is annoying every time. Okay, so hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought like it was gone. Fine. So if I say like pytest, python -m, so pytest, I can say -m. So it means like till now Python module you want to execute, that is pytest. That's how you write pytest. But generally I just created the installation right now. That's why so Windows now not recognizing. Generally we can just do with pytest only. Pytest, if I execute, it should work. So if I restart or sometimes Windows, right, it will be crazy. But if I say Python -m pytest, it is working, right? Fine. And after that, if I do pytest will take -m. This is not for module. So for a mark, if I say like a grade, so which R is having a grade, it will execute that. Means what are all the test cases which are having grade, it will execute. Similarly, what R is having like less, it will execute. In the same fashion, not only this, one more thing. Yeah, if you want to do pytest.mark the rate of mark. Once again, test it mark. Yeah. So what it is saying, so the thing is like this: from pytest import mark, they added like one more thing, one more mark, mark, like this. Maybe like, let's see if it works. At the rate of replace it. Okay, now let me execute it. You see now, array, it is deprecated again. Mark. If I take like pytest import mark, mark.value, so and so. Generally we do like this only, but maybe it is a warning. It came. Mark.grade. So deprecation warning pytest. Unknown warning.grade is system to avoid to detail stable. Okay, they gave like a documentation to ask you to go. So in the documentation, they're asking to mark separately. Of course, generally everyone says like to use a configuration file. I just don't want to take you to the configuration file immediately. So there is a reason which I want to don't go. So I will tell. So in real world examples, we will take like a configuration file and do. But like just let me tell you one more examples and tell you here. You see in this example, you see here, there are two things. Here also we are doing mark.positive, mark.negative. Means I want to group them like a positive or negative test. I can execute like this, so pytest, if I execute, all will execute, verbose I told. If I want to mark as positive or mark as negative. And one more thing, to run and stop if at least one or test fails. If there are like 1,000 tests, or so generally if you go to production projects, it will be like that only. More tests will be there. For the first time, if something was failing, if you want to stop there, you can say max fail, you can write. And similarly, how much duration you want to write the test to execute. And similarly, if you want to integrate these test results to something like Sonar Cube or some other tools, so like if you want to get the results and store, we can do like this. So they were like different commands for that. And the next big thing about this is about fixtures. I know like earlier you felt very difficult in the mockings, right? For the unit test. Similarly here we have something called as fixtures. What is a fixture? So how it works? To start with, let me give a simple example to understand fixtures. Yeah. Example, yeah. Simple fixture dot py. So okay, I need to write a test with a underscore, right? simple fixture underscore test. If I write it, then I can do. Say I have a function which I want to do the fixture. So what I can do, generally, if I say I write a import pytest, in this pytest I want to test a function, test functionality. Say something like random value, test test a value, okay, test a value. And if I want to take like something like some function should return something, say function I want to check like a is equal to 100, b is equal to 200, and I want to check assert a is equal to b. This is what I want to test. It's a very simple example, right, for you to understand. Okay, now if I test, like how we do, cls and python -m pytest -v. If I execute, I can see that what is executing. So a is equal to 2, we told it is not correct. And if I say like, so second one is 100, then it is correct, it will execute. Now this result I want to get from some other place. So this b I want to get from some others. Maybe like to make the things easy, I'll make it like number 1, number 2. So number 1 should be equal to number 2. It is correct. But in the second case, I want to do where for the same function 2 I want to get this result from another thing. Say number 2 I am taking. Instead of getting from this, I want to get the number 2 somewhere. And if I execute, what will happen? It will expect the second number should be there, right? So the second number is not there, so it will not come. Then how to get this second number? So that's where the fixtures comes to picture. Means if you have some standard data and you want to pass to everything else, say like, so some, yeah, see here. So if you want this number, so you cannot get like directly. So say give number. I wrote one function. So whenever you are writing this function, this will do the job to you as like giving this number. So say return 200. So and this one we should get it, right? So from that we should get like, we should mark like pytest dot fixture. If I do pytest dot fixture and give number, or like, so number to test, so give a number, and I should use, instead of number 2, I should use that name number directly, and I can do now with that number. And you see now within the context it will make use of the number whichever is coming. Did you understand it? So fixture can be used now for any other purpose. So now it will check whether both are equal or not. Again you give 200, you should give 100. If I give 100 now, it is checking that. So this same number now I can use in different purposes. Say define test data type of given number. See, whatever I was given, the same thing. It doesn't mean it should start with a test or something. I want to check assert is instance of, so given number is of what instance? It's of type integer, right? I want to do the test. So why again it threw an error? So give number, right? I wrote, okay, it's good. Given number, it's a very good way of doing it. Yeah, typo. If I execute again, did you see what is saying? Again, okay, here given number, here again given number. Yeah, typos. It is executing. So what else I can check? So in the same fashion, I can take like define. So test underscore another. So the same thing, whichever I have defined in the top, I want to make use. If you want to define and use over a period of time, you can do. Say like given number is not equal to 200. So or something. Then you may ask me a question. Sir, if I write a global constants, here some constant like number one is equal to something, can't I use in everywhere? You can do, right? Then what is the difference between a global variable and this thing? General question, right? So global variable versus, so pytest fixture. What is the difference? Means, so pytest fixture fixtures will have scopes, will have the scopes where they will be. So beyond their scope, they won't be there. So what is the purpose of it? You will understand. So before even going there, let me take one more example. So v underscore example underscore test dot py. I wrote one more test. This time also I want to check some value which I want to get. So here I am taking like input value is 10. So it will return that function. So whenever I am doing the test, I can just do that. Input value plus 10, I will get it. Similarly, if I want to do the addition dot so and so, I can do like this. And similarly, if I want to skip something, one more thing, this is very interesting. If you want to skip some of the tests, so this is how you do mark like skip using the marking. So now in this case, it should execute all the test cases. You see, so which is executing. And similarly, one more thing I want to bring to your notice. Yeah. And sharing fixture with, yeah. If you have like a fixtures which are like across multiple things, and if you want to share them, so that's where we need to have like fixtures. So for that, scope, I told, right, the concept of scope. So if I do like the sharing fixtures, multiple files. If I want to share the fixtures with multiple files, then in that case, we need to write the things commonly. So there is a new kind of file which you will see right now. Earlier, I remember I told everyone will write in a config file. I told there is something called as conftest.py. Everyone remember this one very clearly. So we will make use of this multiple times. Conftest, and you write something. So in the conftest, that name should be exactly same. Conftest, and you write something. Get a DB driver. I wrote like driver is some PySci copy. So, and I want to use this one across multiple files. So I told you, either a test file can start with a test or like end with a test. In this case, I'm doing a test underscore file name. If I execute, and I can now check. So you need not explicitly pass again to this file. See, in this, I didn't even define pytest again. Means until unless I want to do like a markup or fixture again, I need not need a module, right? Pytest module. So I'm just doing like getting the things and I'm printing it. Or like I want to take one more file and I want to execute there also. The same thing I want to execute there also. Say here also in the pytest 2, I want to do. So now one file I have in one place, I just want to access it in multiple test cases. So if it is an ordinary file, I cannot access. As it is conftest.py, I can access directly. If I go directly into that, yeah, fixtures b so and so. Okay, if I say python -m pytest -b, you can notice that. So there are two test cases. Both are executed. So if you have something which you want to share across multiple things, so this is how you do. Hope now you understood the difference between ordinary, these things and here. And like one more thing, you have like using multiple fixtures. You have like sharing, I told you, right? A simple example. So the second one is like using multiple fixtures. How do you use multiple fixtures and how the things works? If I take like one more example, say this time test example, say I'm doing like two fixtures and I want to use it. So two fixtures I created. So test.fixture allowed inputs test list and allowed output so and so. I have two fixtures. So I just use it within my functions. And if I similarly, I want to do the same thing on multiple things. So I just want to use only one among them in another function. I can just use it test. So I have a different context altogether. Test squares. Test squares is one thing I want. For that, I want to use these allowed inputs. And I want to make use of this and I want to check. So how I can check? Assert. So I want to do a squares and get the result, and I want to do squares is equal to value for value in value to the power of 2 for value in so and so. I wrote assert square should be equal, right? Map of something. I wrote lambda x stated to the power of 2 comma. So allowed host. If you are given, the result should be equal to the host. Something. I wrote something. Some logic out of context I want to use for a different purpose. I'm using it. So okay, I need to come out of this and I need to go to the using multiple fixtures. And if I execute the same statement, you can see everything is executed. What is saying here, where it is coming here and doing some logic, and it is saying that hey, allowed values are good. Oh, I am doing a multiplication, right? If I do a power, then it will be clear. CLS. Okay, see now it's working. So pytest fixtures are also means if you have multiple things, you can use for common purpose or multiple purposes. Or similarly, most of the time I use whenever I'm making a DB connections. If I want to get the username, password, and others, I'll make it. And the next thing that you have is about scoping them. So this is where interesting comes. So if I want to work on the scoping this thing, no cancel. D scoping fixtures. If you want to scope these fixtures, means in which scope what will be used and how we can use. For the first time to understand about this concept of fixtures, scoping, if I take the first example, you can notice that there were five types of scopings we have totally. Function scope, which is the default. You created somewhere and using in another function, right? That is a function scope. Within the function you used it. Similarly, you have session scope, class scope, model scope, package scope. So first thing first, if I want to list everything in one place, I'm just showing it here, but I will go again detail. You see, in the fixture, you are mentioning the scope is equal to class. So means, sir, is it a class? I'll tell you. You created this function as like a fixture, and where you using, so like that you can tell. And here scope is equal to session, means when you're doing with context manager, you can use it. So similarly, scope is equal to module, means within the module you can use. So use fixture of scope fixture. You see, I wrote it as a class fixture. So I'm using that fixture for here. Means within the class, everywhere you can use directly. In the class, we need not pass again separately. We can just use directly. That's a point. And the first thing first, as we have seen already most of the times, the default one, the function scope. Function scope means you define somewhere and you use it. If you don't define also, it is function scope only. So you define outside like a function and use it within it, right? So you define something like So return, say something like today is good day. Today is good day. So you can see whenever you're asking here, the result will be the same. Today is good day. You can say like asset. So function scope fixture which are is got is equal to this thing. Or similarly, so you can say like asset. So function scope fixture so is not equal to tomorrow. Something you wrote, some logic. So fixture function, test function. So test function 1. So test function 2. Something you wrote. So it will execute like this. And similarly, if I go the third one, there is something called as class scope. As I just now told, we can define these fixtures. Fixtures were like simple functions only you write. When you're writing, they were like functions, but where you are using, that's the point. See, I wrote a function fixture called as DB connection. Assume that there is a function for DB connection, getting the connection, and it uses. And within the classes, I need not write again. So I can just use it within the function. And in top, as in the previous, you can mention in the top that, hey, it is a function class scope. That's it. And in the same fashion, there is one more scope called as the session scope. For the session scope, you need to use within the session. You see here, you define one function. So you are creating a temporary directory and getting it. And you want to use. So you can use it like this within it. Session, so means like a with context manager will be there. So wherever the context is there, in that context we can use, not in the other cases. And in the last case, about the module context, package context also will be there, but module context, if I say, it will be like this. Say I'm going with an example. See, most of the time we do these loggers. This is one practical example. So if I'm saying scope is equal to module, I defined a logger object. So logger.logger, and I'm giving some value. So the logger level I set and everything I did, and I'm just using it within the module. Means within this module, which are the list of files are there. Module means what? In this list of file, in the file, everywhere I can use it directly. And also, when you're using this kind of scopes, package scope I don't want to tell because at the package level, again, we need to create something. Maybe in real time, when you're doing your projects, I will tell the package scope. And the next one is auto use. Auto use if you place, so even without even asking that, we can use anytime. So if I have this function, so I just try to use it. So where is the list of files I have? I think I'm somewhere. Scoping fixtures. So if I say pytest onion pytest -v, so f, I want to test only that. So it will execute this. I have like this one, like test calculator. So anytime you take it, it will execute. Did you see that? It need to print. Of course, it is not showing. I will tell you that also option afterwards. Next, after this, you have like parameterizing these things. After the fixtures, we have something like parameterizing. So for that, parameterize. What do you mean by parameterize? How it actually works? Parameterize fixtures. These are also fixtures only. One kind of parameterized fixtures means whenever you want to use. So don't you think it's like a mocking only, but it is not an exact replica of mocking, but it does something else. Means here, if I say an example, parameterized mocking. Take an example you see here. Till now you define what? You define a fixture and you are just taking the values like this, right? You are doing whatever this result is there, that result you are passing. Whereas here I am doing like this. Means whenever you are using this value, so whatever the values you pass, it will come like this. And so to start with, so one last practical example I will start. Then I will place all of them, what are I told till now, together, if max possible. If not, in another practical examples where we can see. The last example I want to touch here is that if I say G example, in this, if I say, assume that I created a small example for a customer. In this customer, I wrote some things. I wrote a constructor which is taking two values. One of them is default, str for printing. And you know this concept of property. If you remember, I told property means like whenever you are asking till now, so if there is a function, you should make a call. But if there is a property, we can just call like a attribute directly. So that is how we can do. But these are like properties which are doing values, and ordinary functions are there. I'm not interested in working on this function, but I want to test these functionalities. For testing these functionalities, I want to create some dummy customers and do the things. So instead of testing the actual functionality, you want to do these dummy things. So mocking also same thing, but the process and the perspective is different. And here I told there is something called as conf test. This is the most important. That's the reason any pytest project you see, there will be a conf test. So in the conf test, first you will import from this customer. I need to import this customer, right? So I do it. And here in the pytest, I do mark as a fixture. So in the fixture, I'm saying customer should be like customer of 100. Means it will create an instance, and that instance is passing. And similarly, I'm making this scope. Customer session is equal to also like this, and I'm giving it. Like this, customer and customer session are two things I created. Now you see, if I want to use it within my test cases, the first example, if I say test underscore customers, and I want to do different test cases. Say initially, I want to create the customer, right? So customer is equal to 100. So I am writing all the kinds of customers. This is like traditional approach. I am not making use of the fixtures. This is the traditional approach. You define the customer and you are doing the checks. You define the customer, you're doing the checks. You define the customer, you're doing the checks all the way. And similarly, in the second case, I just want to use whatever we did earlier, right? The fixtures. So that fixtures. So there are two ways of doing the fixtures. Either fixtures we can write within the test case also, or else if you want to share between different files, you can use separately. So though you have written like separately, I just don't want to use initially. So I want to tell like the traditional approach, how people have followed earlier. So instead of writing everywhere to make the things common, they wrote like a fixture in one place and just they are using the customers. In the first example you see here, nothing was taken as an input. So you were just doing everything on your own. Second case, you are creating the fixture separately and passing as an argument and using it. So using a fixture, without a fixture if you want to do. And so with fixtures, you are doing some things, level up or level down. Or the third example, if you want to see, we have like say, in this example also, I want to use, you see here, I just want to use the fixtures which were not even written here. So that's the reason we are using conf test. So in the conf test, I defined this fixture, right? That conf test right now I'm using. So I need not even focus. Even if you are using from conf test, so you are not importing anywhere, right? From conf test or something. PyTest will automatically find for a conf test and get these values. If there is no conf test, then it will say I don't have. Even if you have conf test, if you want to do without conf test, or some of them, if you want to overwrite, you can do like this. And next thing, I told right, if you write a conf test, it can be shared across multiple test scripts. So that's why if I write one more test script and I'm just using it, it doesn't matter which one will. So whatever you have written as customer, it is coming. And did you see here in the conf test? Okay, in the conf test, you mentioned like an underscore thing, and here you write. So it's like a protector variable. That is nothing to do with that. Just I'm telling that's a general notion people follow. And similarly, you have written one more thing here, like customer session. So it's customer session also you wrote something, and I want to just test it. The same thing I want to use it here. You see here now. Customer session was created, means one more variable I want to use. This time I want to use that. So whichever I have created like that, the exact name, this function name is what exactly we need to write. So here also I wrote customer underscore, but what is exposed is this function name. Okay, so like this we have different kinds of fixtures to say. So to consolidate to your understanding on the fixtures, so we have like different kinds of fixtures. So the fixtures were like for reusability, and if you want to use something in different purposes, we can make use of the fixtures. So hope you understood what are the different kinds of fixtures and purpose. So we can touch on the remaining things